in 10,000 BC, the so-called agricultural revolution, where mankind starts harvesting and farming wheat, was actually a negative to the species in many ways.
Basically, for most people, life just became harder. Of course, if you're a king or if you're some high priest or even a philosopher, then life was relatively good and better in many ways than as a hunter-gatherer in the Stone Age. But most people weren't kings and weren't aristocrats. They were peasants and farmers and herders, and their life in many ways was much harder than before. Physically, you work much harder. The human body evolved for millions of years in adaptation to climbing trees and running after rabbits and things like that. And suddenly you find yourself from sunrise to sunset just plucking weeds and carrying water buckets from the river and harvesting and grinding corn. And you see it in archaeological remains that people begin to suffer from all kinds of problems in their backs, in their necks, in their knees. And so the body suffers from the transition, also the mind. Life as a hunter-gatherer for most people are far more interesting. If you have to choose, even today, between going to the forest to look for mushrooms or carrying water buckets from the river all day, or working as a cashier in a supermarket all day, I think that going to the forest to look for mushrooms is far more interesting. I mean, even today...
Particularly depending on what mushrooms you're looking for.
Even if you look just for the ordinary kind, the edible ones to fill your stomach, rather than to change your mind, still it's more interesting. I mean, even than most people, what most people do today. Of course, it comes with all kinds of difficulties and dangers. In the forest, you have snakes, you have tigers, you have to be alert all the time. But that also means that just by necessity, you develop kinds of alertness and sensibility that most of us have lost over the last 10,000 years. When you go to the forest to look for mushrooms, you have to be extremely present. You have to be aware of every sound, of every smell, because this can be a dangerous signal, a warning signal that a tiger is coming. If, on the other hand, you today go to the supermarket to buy your groceries, you don't need to be so alert. There are no tigers lurking between the cornflakes or whatever. So you can just go there and stare at your mobile phone while you're doing it, texting messages, and not even being present in the supermarket. So in terms of these basic human skills, to be present, to be able to listen, to be able to smell, to be able to taste, life was much more colorful and rich 10,000 years ago